research that we have done that myself and PGP student at IIM Kozhikode, Chavi Bagel, we have done. This work started off with an interest in understanding this particular phenomenon. The first part of the phenomenon is given over here. So this is a necklace that I have picked up, the photo of the necklace which I have picked up from Tanishq. And it's a striking gold necklace for the Kannadiga bride and all that. It costs about 1.6 lakh, of which the gold is 22 carat and it is 1.23 lakh worth of gold. Similar product from Malabar. Again, you see, of course, Malabar has its ways of spreading out the gold, I should say. But in any case, 24,700 rupees and the gold is 17,000. So this kind of covers a range of gold jewelry as we typically think of gold jewelry. But when we look at this, that is the first one is Ethereal Swan Lake necklace, which is 35,000, which is in fact costlier than the Malabar gold jewelry. And that is Tribe Amrapali, that's the brand, and it is sold by All Earth, again a brand which sells sustainable jewelry. So the kind of price which this jewelry can command without even getting into gold. And the other example over here, that's a different form of branding or showing an impact, which is this Thanpa ball necklace. Just in the name, there is this kind of attraction. What is this all about? And it costs 9,000 just for that little set of bubble-like things hanging over there. So this is tribal jewelry sold by Dora, again a designer jewelry brand. So what is it that really differentiates these two, which are like extreme ends of the jewelry landscape in India? So this is where the study was started, and we focused on pricing practices, that is the making charges that are imposed on gold. So that is where this whole project hinged upon. And over time, we realized that what we had gotten into was an entire shift in the gold jewelry industry. So let's understand how that happens. Keeping in mind that this is really not too much of an academic presentation. I have left the academic boring stuff for an academic conference. That's a conference on macro marketing. Now, this one is more meant for policymakers, jewelers, customers, and anybody who is interested in this industry. So let's begin with the positioning of gold jewelry. How is jewelry actually sold? On what basis? So what we know is that every jeweler talks about beauty, design, material, all of these things. But do they actually sell on any of these? They talk about these, but is that how the product is sold? So what we find is that in gold jewelers, there is just quantity of gold that is present, the making charges and the discount on the making charges. It is entirely about product and price. Not even product, the material in the product and the price. Whereas non-gold jewelers get into sustainability, sourcing, designer, all that, the origin of the product, all that. So again, this issue. So this is a typical ad. I have picked up Tanishq, but most ads look like this. You have very intricate jewelry products, but all you see is the discount on making charges. So there are two key research questions. The first is about current practices with respect to making charges. Are they suitable to the changing context? The gold jewelry industry is changing, as we will discuss, and is the current pricing practice suitable? The second one is it actually feasible to adopt some kind of pricing based on the craft premium, that is valuing the design? There was a conversation on this today earlier in the day. Can gold be actually sold like a Rolex watch, or if nothing else, at least like a simpler but designer product? So in terms of current practices, I'm going to go very quickly over this. There is making charges, typically considered as a loss. There is hardly any jewelry which is sold at a single combined price with making charges not specified. There is a discount. Discount is what the jewelers compete on, and the consumers choose jewelers based on discount, on brand, and on loyalty to the jeweler. So, but never on the designs and craftsmanship. So this is the current status. From here on, whatever is being presented, it is based on the methods that the research that we have conducted, although I will detail that only later. Now, if you try to compare gold with other products, first of all, there is no premium for craft in gold. There is no premium for brand, except of course some brands try to create a premium on the making charges, but not on the overall product. Unlike designer clothes, luxury watches, all that. The second thing is that very few products are sold on MRP. The third thing over here is, despite its cost, gold is not a luxury product. That is, every single Indian is likely to own or wear some form of gold. It's just the reality. And gold is bought very confusingly for both investment and adornment. So these are things which we will try to unravel later on. These are the studies that we have conducted. 3 studies. The first one intended to examine the current notions related to making charges. This consisted of secondary research. That is, we looked at 41 selected articles, online articles, try to understand the themes that were present, mainly to understand what is the current practices. So this is more like for us to arrive at the basic understanding of the industry. Nothing too much new over here. The second study was about understanding the customer. So there was some conversation earlier as well about how we understand the customer in a very limited fashion into the depth of the customer's thoughts. So this is where we try to conduct customer interviews. These are in-depth interviews, about 20 to 30 minutes long. And Chavi and I, we actually conducted all of these interviews, sat with the customers, probed them. We had a structure, we had a semi-structured interview, but we talked to them in depth about why they buy gold, why they do not buy, making charges, returning the jewelry, and so on. So the topics are also listed here. So this was conducted in parallel with the jeweler interviews. Jewelers were interviewed, that is 9 jewelers, including 1 karigar, across the spectrum of jewelries, ranging from national brands to regional brands to very small local brands. We interviewed them to understand what they see in terms of making charges, why there is a huge variation of making charges across jewelers, do customers accept it, and so on. With all this, this is our summary of findings specifically from customers. Now, many of these things may not be new to us. But what we have done is to look at these customers' thoughts in depth and come up with these insights in a rigorous manner. So anybody who knows the qualitative research methodology, that is interviews, would know that 14 interviews until you reach saturation, that is actually quite a large number. And given that we had very strong consistency among these 2 groups, so we had women who were, so as listed at the bottom of that page, participants were middle class customers in tier 1 and tier 2 in 2 age groups. We interviewed only women and these 2 age groups, and they were remarkably consistent. So what we find is, in terms of willingness to pay a premium for design, we have not asked them about making charges, but just the premium for design. Stark difference. Young women willing, older women no. Comfortable with single number as the price. That's no split of making charges. Here they are comfortable. I mean, the older people are not comfortable. Younger women, they want to buy, don't have the money yet, but they are earning. So the income is increasing. So the ability is increasing. Older women, not so much ability. Young women buy gold only for adornment. All the young women we interviewed were absolutely not interested in buying thick, heavy gold. And this may not be very surprising, but to see it consistently reflected means that these insights can actually be used for some action. For older women, it is first investment, then adornment. The younger women buy from branded jewelers, older women from local or regional jewelers. They are still not comfortable with the pan-India jewelers, keeping in mind that these are middle class. And the younger women use their parents' accumulated gold as a stock in the back of their mind, so that now they're not interested in any more stock of jewelry. That phase has passed for them. For the older women, they have already accumulated. They are also not interested in buying heavy jewelry. The younger women buy products that's for adornment. These are high margin products. Although many jewelers did complain that these are low volume, but the volume is likely to increase. The older women, products with low margin, because these are the thick, heavy products. young women do not buy bridal jewelry. Whenever any bridal jewelry is bought, that is by the parents. The parents sit with the young women and buy for them. If the woman, the bride gets her preferences, she will buy studded jewelry, which is why now we see a trend for studded jewelry in bridal jewelry. Okay, so all of this is what we found, and the interesting question hence is how much gold should your gold jewelry actually have? So is the gold the big deal or is it something else? So with this, uh, I would like to present this view on the imminent shift in the industry. Okay. So in where we are now, that's 2024, the market is such that there is a very small section which is lightweight, studded, low carat, high margin, adornment jewelry. The larger portion of the market is heavy, plain, high carat, low margin, investment plus adornment. However, the proportion is likely to shift by 2034. This is not yet quantified. That's the next stage of the project. Hopefully, we can do that very quickly. In any case, there are 4 drivers for this kind of a finding. The first driver is that there is a rising young population. Young population, as we saw how young women choose their gold. Age divide, that is what we discussed about the younger and older women. The existing stock of gold jewelry, it means that young women just do not care for additional gold. Availability and interest in alternate forms of investment, that is stocks and equities and all that. What is the implication? By 2034, there will be a huge impact on jeweler volume. That is their revenue, margin, volume, all of these is going to take a hit. Because the quantity of gold that is sold, the current practice of focusing on commodities is going to go away because nobody wants gold as a commodity in jewels form. Implications are for jeweler product mix, marketing, target segment, everything that jewelers do will have to change. And finally, the redefined role of pricing and making charges. Now, how much of this will pan out is something yet to be done, but there is definitely a shift in the market. So let's look at the consequences. So I'm going to skip this. This is about ecosystem impact on jeweler, customer, artisans, and the policymakers. Happy to talk about all this more. So in terms of pricing practices, what we are suggesting is to go from cost-based, competition-based, discounted pricing towards value-based pricing, which also helps the artisans. Recommendations, I'm going to just touch upon the policymakers' recommendations. That is, policymakers need to drive alternate forms of investment other than gold jewelry. So gold ETFs, digital gold, all other forms. Rather than, in a way, wasting gold through the form of thick, heavy jewelry. The second is to drive consumers' gold investment transition from jewelry to bars, which again there are efforts underway, but probably not so sufficient. And the third is that jewelers are going to have a quandary for what exactly they should be doing. So jeweler expertise lies beyond selling. Jewelers are the first mile contact for customers. So jewelers need to play a larger role in this whole scheme of things. And the other recommendations I'll not touch upon now, but they are all related. So the next steps over here is to quantify the shift to really see what is the timeline over which this shift can happen. And finally, identify additional roles for jewelers and policy implications. So I guess that is about it. So in sum, all we are saying is that the market is going to change, the pricing policy has to change, and there is going to be a lot of churn that jewelers will face in terms of their products, prices, target customers, marketing activities, and everything else. So, okay, these are acknowledgements. That is it. So, any questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one.
Sure.
Just one very quick question. I think it's an important point that you've raised about how we are selling on making charges and not on design. But also, I think to an extent, the fact that we've commoditized gold jewelry. You're not selling gold jewelry as a story or a design. Essentially, and that is why people have moved towards making charges. So, whose mistake is it? Is it the jeweler's mistake or is it the consumer's?
So what I would say is that there is no really a mistake over here. What has happened over the years is that market has moved in this direction because of Indians' penchant for gold. Jewelers sold this. What is now happening is that that attraction for gold, the quantity of gold that we have in our hands as jewelry, that is going away slightly, and the market is always going to be driven by the customer. So jewelers have no choice but to respond to customer demand.